Hello everybody, today I'll be talking about Transcendence heroes and in which order you should build them. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the individual heroes by themselves. And towards the end of the video, I will give you the build orders. If you want to check only build orders, just click the timestamps down below and go to the end of the video. And yeah, let's start with Sword Flash Sha. So she prioritizes lowest HP. This is of course a good synergy with Drake. She needs to get a kill round 1 or 2 in order to burst the enemies round 2 or 3. And she can easily win 1v1s because of her dodge. So when you have dodge, you can not get hit by anything at that point. Except, of course, counterattacks and all. So whenever you are in a 1v1 or even 1v2 situation, you are most likely gonna win the fight. And then her dodge is especially useful because it also, not only does she not take damage, she also doesn't get hit by the skill effects or the enemy. So, in Void Vortex, there can be multiple carries in the wave, and when one of them hits you, it cannot energy drain you because of dodge, which is a problem in like most of the Transcendence heroes. Everything else will get drained of their energy, while SFX just dodges and keeps going. And then she has Rogan Direct synergy, of course. So she's an assassin, she gets double buffs from Rogan, and getting an early kill is only really possible if you are using Drake. That's why most of the time you want to use two Rogans, a Drake in the team with SFX. And she cannot hit AoE without killing. Now this is a problem in Void campaign, of course. The enemies keep getting stronger and have more HP with every wave. So it's hard to get a kill on even one or two of them. That's why she is not really good in Void campaign. But it is fine with Void Vortex and everywhere else because you can use Rogan and Drakes. In Void campaign you can. Requires specific setup, yep. She just doesn't work without Rogans and Drake. That's why you want to replace her at some point, like maybe when you have 5 Transcendence heroes, you kinda want to get rid of her. Unless of course you have a giant killer SFX, then you can keep using her. So the specific setup is usually two Rogans, Drake, Ignis, and Halura to support her. You can also get rid of Ignis for a Jahra, that also works. And at that point, even if you make a fourth Transcendence Heroes, you don't want to put it in the team, because what are you gonna remove, Rogan or Drake? Like, that's pretty bad. And then she doesn't ping anything, only DPS. Yep, that's SFX, just a lot of DPS and nothing else. Next up, we have Halora. So if you have SFX as your first trans, you want to go with Halora second because she has a very easy seal land. Like Abyss is pretty easy compared to Fortress, which is one of the hardest out there. I mean, I don't think it's that hard anymore, but still, like Abyss is very easy. You can do it without Homeowner Halora as well. So she is also a great support. She has the all damage dealt buff. She also buffs the crit damage enemies take, I think. So very good buffs. Great support for SFX. She's a nice Demon Bell user. This is a pretty important part. Like, you want Demon Bell users in your team most of the time because you want to run like 3 or 4 in most situations. Of course, she can also run other things like Snowart or AMB or Crown, but her basic is not really strong anyway, so you want to use a round 1 active most of the time for the debuff as well. And then she has a unbending will counter, that is her passive Queen's Guard, I think. Which is not really important, I mean, in PvE. It is pretty good in PvP to get rid of the shields. And then she has low damage. Yep, that's why she is like a Demon Bell user most of the time. You don't want to put like a Melodic Strings or Punisher or anything, so you can just slap a Demon Bell and go on. She doesn't have any CC, yep. She has a Use the Split. That is like, Bleed is only useful if you are using Wolf in the team. And where do you wanna use a Wolf in like any of the game modes? Maybe Seal Land, like depending on how much HP your Ignis has. So if your Ignis can survive without Wolf, I mean without Lion, you can go with Wolf of course. Otherwise, maybe like a Broken Spaces or Flame Shrine, you can use Wolf, I guess. But do you really wanna build a Wolf just for that? Like, I don't think it's really good to do. Next up, we have Asmodel. So he has pretty high AoE burst. This is especially seen in Seal Land Light. Like he just bursts the enemy down at round 5, just kills it, everything, at Seal Land 25. With like 800,000 attack or something. Pretty low, compared to other Seal Lands. And then he has synergy with carries, of course. That is why people usually use Cheese Team with Asmodel. Asmodel and 5 carries. So carries keep dying and reviving, buffing Asmodel further. He has good debuffs. I think he has attack reduce and also speed reduce, which is the most important part. In Void Campaign and Void Vortex Dominator, the enemies have just insane amounts of speeds. So you want that speed debuff to be able to attack before them on your main carry. And then he covers low HP ally hero. That is pretty good in Void Campaign. Like if that ally hero survives one more hit, it might just win you the fight. It's pretty important because fights take very long, like fights end very quickly. In 2-3 rounds, you just die, and if you don't die, you are good to go. You just win. So yeah. And then, as always, with most of the Transcendence heroes except Shah, Energy Drain destroys him. He relies on active skill a lot to do a lot of damage. And he is weak early mid game. Yeah, don't really build him until like 6 trans, I would recommend. When you have 5 Transcendence heroes, you are in a good spot in Void campaign, I'm assuming. And at 6 Transcendence heroes, you'll be good to go pushing like 2 to 10 maybe 2 to 2 4 10. So by that point, you really need that speed debuff. And also the protection for the ally is pretty good. So don't really build them early mid game. Later on, just build them at S6 or maybe later, depending on new Transcendence heroes coming up and what else we can find on the way. Next up, we have Jafra. Jafra is the best CC, of course. She also like locks down enemy energies, so they don't gain energy either. Pretty good. And then she has self-energy feed. This is pretty important. At Void campaign, you can run her as main homeowner, and then she just keeps enemies CC'd by herself without even relying on allied demon bells. I mean, she of course gets a lot of buffs from the demon bells or ally actives anyway. But she has kind of like an energy feed by herself that is pretty good. She has high damage, of course. Using actives every turn, like she will make a lot of damage very quickly. And then her disadvantages are relying on demon bells. This is especially true in like early Void Vortex levels. Like if you are pushing Vanquisher, you want 12 demon bells, so Jara can use an active every second round or something. I think that's how it works most of the time. And like unless you have 16 demon bells, you can't use an active every round at least. And then she is vulnerable to CC and energy drain. Yep. Especially energy drain because she gains a lot of energy from allies using actives and also the demon bells you are using. So if you get hit with a carry active, you might just die from 100, like 100% HP, you just die. She's weaker as ally heroes die. Yeah, they buff her control immunity offset, I think, with their actives, so you want those heroes alive most of the time. Next up, we have Vesa. Vesa has heals and shields for the team. She's the best Star Expedition hero. Even like a 1.2 million attack Vesa can do like 4 trillion damage in Star Expedition. It's pretty good. And she's a great Demon Bell holder in most cases, even in Seal Land. Yeah, like even in Seal Land, people use her with Demon Bell sometimes. She's a she works with Eloise. This is the main part of her, to be honest. You mostly want to use Eloise Homeowner at the beginning of the game, early to mid game. And Vesa is a good support for her. She just gives out of heals and shield to the team, keeping them alive further, and a few rounds is all it takes for Eloise to kill the enemies. Her active hits randomly. Now, this is both a good thing and a bad thing. First of all, not hitting all enemies is very good in Void campaign because you don't feed energy to all of them. Second of all, you can, like, imagine in Void Vortex, you can accidentally one-shot a Garuda because all of her actives randomly hit Garuda. That can happen sometimes. That is pretty good. And then in some cases, there might be a very low HP enemy, and she will never hit her, so you will just lose the fight because of that randomness. It's pretty RNG. Active takes a while to stack. Yep, that is. Her active hits way harder with every active she hits, so I think that stacks up like 6 rounds. So using actives in a row is very strong with her. That's why she does way more damage towards the end of the fight, like if it ends 15 rounds. And next up we have the Lord of Harassment. Now he has direct synergy, of course, as long as you put him in the spot where defense down enemy is. He has a lot of CC by himself, of course. Even if you are not running Rui, he will still CC a lot of enemies. Like his fear chances are pretty high. So without Rui, you are still fine most of the time. And with a Rui, they are just never getting out of fear. He has huge AoE damage. That is, of course, if he kills an enemy with the first part of his active attack. He has self-energy feed again. If he fears enemies, he gains energy. And he can keep using actives like that. His disadvantages are hard to play with. Now this is because you kinda want to put him in against the enemy that is defense down. So if they have a carrier spot 5, you want to put Aspen spot 5 to attack her. This makes it pretty hard to play because you cannot like smash any fights or like try to beat something without watching the fight. You want to see the fight, like if you can figure out the lowest HP enemy, of course, just put him in there. And then you go into fight, you find, oh, the third enemy has the defense down, so you put him in the third spot in the team, and so on. So you cannot really smash anything because the enemies are gonna have different positions. You want to put Aspen in different positions. This is like assuming you are using a homeowner Aspen, of course. Like any other time, it's whatever. If you are running Receptor on him, just put him anywhere, and he will CC backline. And yeah, that's kind of the thing with Aspen main homeowner. And bad enemy team position, this is also a problem with him. So imagine your opponent team has carry in spot 2 and then Sherlock at spot 1. So what happens is you want to put Aspen at spot 2 because defense down is gonna be on carry. But after you kill carry, Aspen will focus the one in front of the spot, so he is gonna attack spot 1 after carry is dead. And defense down is most likely not gonna be on Sherlock. Also, Sherlock is a pretty tanky hero, so it will take you a while to kill him. Like, enemy team position is pretty important for Aspen to work. And next up, we have, whoops, Sun Devourer EOS. So she has Phoenix Synergy. This is important if you can, like, last for at least 4 rounds in the fight. Because before 4 rounds, your burn energy, like burn synergy, won't do anything. And after that, it's pretty good. Like, it keeps the burning going, which enables you to keep utilizing the Phoenix 80% damage buff. And then you have huge AoE damage on EOS. This is pretty good because even if you are using her like normally, without homeowner or anything, she still does a lot of damage. And she stacks up some burns. The damage gets higher as the rounds go by. And then she does work after that. When she dies, she uses the um, energy oscillation, I think, which can reduce enemies' energies at the end of the round. It has a low chance, but she still does something when she's dead. And next up, we have low chance to CC energy drain. Yep, that is her dazzle and energy oscillation having like 30% chance or something to work, which is very low. And then she is use this passive till she dies. So that's kind of the thing with these death passives. It like you're playing with three skills basically. The fourth one doesn't work till you die. And losing a hero in a fight is pretty bad thing. So it's bad most of the time. It can work in some situations like I did use EOS in some waves where I used her without unbending, so she just dies round one and then drains energy round one. That was the only way I could win. But most of the other times this is a bad thing because you are playing without a passive. And next up we have Star Alchemist Holmes Young. So he has a great disable, but do you really want that disable is the question. Because most of the time you are relying on Aspen and Jafra CC to keep enemies disabled. And his disable is working on highest attack enemy and maybe sometimes two enemies, changing their actives and basic attacks. While this is good in some situations, of course, especially in PvP, because the highest attack enemies getting disabled is very good. In like Void campaign or Dominator Void Vortex, this is not going to help you at all. What you cannot CC, like what your CC doesn't help with, is heroes like King Barton, Eloise, Horus, anything with counterattacks like Gustin, Halora. So those are the threats to your team in these modes. And Jahra and Aspen can't do much about it because the passives keep working. And Holmesian CC also only affects active and basic attack, so their passives are still gonna work. That's why it is not really good, I think. I still put it as an advantage for mostly for PvP. He increases dot damage. That is kinda helpful in longer fights, but again, most of the time you are gonna win the fights pretty fast or lose them pretty fast. So yeah, it's not really a good thing. This hero doesn't have a lot of advantages, sadly. And then he relies on energy feed. His basic is pretty bad, so you want to keep using actives. He has low damage again. Only 1-2 CC at a time. Yep, that is kinda pretty bad. When you have other heroes that CC all 6 enemies, that's not really something to be proud of. Next up, we have Freya. So Freya is a great Demon Bell holder. You want her to keep using actives as much as possible. She has best buffs for the team. So I think the first active of Freya gives your team control immunity and damage reduction, which is pretty good. And then the second active gives, you can see of course the great second active there. Second active gives like 2400% shield to the team, which is pretty insane. But there's a problem with that, I will talk about it. And then after the second active, the third active and the ones after that buffs her damage, I think. And yeah, pretty good buffs all around. And then we have low damage in short fights. Of course, with any other scaling Transcendence as well, like Vesa. Your damage gets higher the longer the fights are. And these kind of support heroes don't have much damage anyway in the first place. However, I think Freya still does good damage, especially in Seal. Team can die before second active. Yep, that is the problem with our second active. The shields are pretty big, but to be able to get to the second active on Freya is a challenge itself. If you get there, you probably win the fight already. And if you die before that, it's not gonna help. Kind of a problem. And those are the heroes, all I can talk about, I think. Um, I didn't test Mockman. I didn't see most of the testing either, so I cannot say much about him. That's why I didn't include him. And we also have Azrael released today. Again, it's gonna take a while to test these heroes to see if they work by themselves or not. So I'll just go with these for now. And let's start with the best first Transcendence. I think Aspen is a pretty good contender against Vesa. So for Vesa, you want to use Homeowner Eloise to buff her, to support her. Otherwise, if you want to use main Homeowner Aspen, Aspen is pretty good first Transcendence. He has everything by himself really. Like single target burst damage, synergy with Drake, a lot of CCs, and self energy feed with the fears. And like he has everything, self healing as well. You are not missing on much if you have him. And then we have Vesa for supporting Eloise. We also have a Mockman here. I believe Mockman works like as a solo hero. Like you can just use suicide heroes with him and he will work. That's why I kind of wanted to put him in here. Again, like no testing, so if you want the safe path, go with Aspen or Vesa. If you want to try something new, like if you want to go crazy, go with Mockman. That might be fun. Of course, SFX is also an option, but do you want to like if you want to make a big home pretty soon, if you are spending a lot, you can go with SFX, I think. Otherwise, don't bother with him, with her, because there is only one way you might be able to do it otherwise. Like if you already have Rogans and Drake and Ignis built before your first Transcendence, maybe you're an old player. In that case, it is okay. Otherwise, it takes her like 2 million attack and the Splendid Melodic Strings, maybe a Radiant, to be able to clear Void Vortex Vanquisher. While the other heroes here, like uh, Vesa, Aspen team, is gonna clear it way faster. I will show it in a second. And yeah, that's basically why I don't recommend SFX nowadays. Second Transcendence is always going to be, in most cases, Aspen and Vesa combine. This is a pretty good combo. You have Aspen fearing enemies that doesn't let enemies use basic attacks. And then Vesa can silence enemies, preventing their active skills from happening. So you can kind of lock them down with both of these heroes. And you have healing, you have shields, you have silence, you have fear, damage. You have everything in this team. And you can also go for a strange path here, which is Vesa and Freya without Aspen. In that case, you're focusing on Sealand Forest. And I don't really recommend this path because unless you clear like Sealand 26 or higher, this won't make much of a difference. Aspen can clear 25 pretty easily by himself. And next up, we have the three trans team. Well, as actually before that, I already talked about it, but you can also go with SFX into Halora if you already have SFX first. Three Transcendence team, you want Freya on top of Aspen and Vesa. Freya will give you a lot of, like, she will give a lot of buffs to the team, and her second active is a pretty huge shield, like making your team survive a while. And that's a pretty good combination there, these Transcendence heroes, three of them. Otherwise, if you went with SFX first, you want to get Jahra third. That will enable you to clear Vanquisher, even if you don't have a lot of attack on SFX. Like, you will still need like 1.2 million attack on SFX, I think. But even then, the bottom team here, SFX team, requires 20 artifacts. So why? You want a splendid melodic strings on SFX, you want 3 splendid demon bells on support heroes, and then you want a splendid receptor on Jahra to be able to clear Vanquisher. While the top team only requires splendid Re on Aspen, and then you can just use crowns or demon bells on Vesa and Freya, and you're good to go. So that is 12 artifacts you can clear the Vanquisher with, for example, compared to the 20 in the bottom team. Pretty good. This team at top also gets you to campaign 1, 5, 10 or something, I think. Like, at least 1, 4. You can clear 1, 3, 10 pretty easily with these trans, I think. And yep, that's basically the first 3 trans you want to build. Aspen, Vesa, and Freya. After that, you kind of want to go for Jahra at that point. And if you went with the SFX team, you want to go with Aspen, of course. This is because Jahra and Aspen work together great, of course. So if you have one of them, you want to build the other one. And you will most likely have enough energy feed, like most likely have enough demon bells to get the team going by that point. So you want those 4 Transcendence heroes in that team. And then 5th Transcendence, you can go with Halura if you are going with the top team, of course. and that's a lot of all damage dealt buff to the team, and it just works. Halora buffs are great when you have that many Transcendence. And if you are going with the SFX team, I think by 5th Transcendence, you want to replace her by that point. Like clear Void Vanquisher, Void Vortex Vanquisher, and then clear Seal and Fortress 25. By that point, you can just get rid of SFX, replace her into some of, like one of these heroes. And again, Asmodel as the 6th Transcendence is very strong in my opinion. You can also use him as a tenant, like there is nothing that can go wrong with Asmodel 6, I believe. Again, this can change depending on new heroes. Like, I don't think Mockman has a place here, to be honest. And this team is assuming these 6 heroes, assuming you don't have a giant killer on anyone. If you have like a giant killer EOS or Aspen or SFX, like the team is going to be way different. And you are just gonna use him for a while. Use the hero with giant killer as main homeowner and then support it as much as you can. And yep, that's basically all I can say, I think, about the 6 Transcendence heroes in build order. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.